Hi, Internet. How are you?
Hello, Internet.
So for today's podcast to talk about Gonzo wearing a dress and becoming Gonzorella, Derek actually dressed like a woman. Psych, it's not Derek. It's his lovely wife, Kate. Are you going by Kate Bolen now, or are you still going by your old last name?
I'm going by Kate Bolen out in public, but legally I am still
Hmm. Okay.
my previous last name.
I just wanted to make sure I got that right before I said it 100 times and upset you if you weren't going by that.
It won't upset me. I don't know if I actually legally will ever be Kate Bolen now that I have to change my name in 2 different countries.
Oh yeah, that sounds like a lot of paperwork, and
Yeah,
I don't fault you at all if you don't want to do paperwork because that is like the worst thing ever.
right. So for
Uh,
appearances, I think I'm just going to go with Kate Bolen for now, but
Nice. Yeah, I don't even know how you do change your name.
me neither. We asked our lawyers, like, should I change my name before or after I emigrate to Canada?
Mm-hmm.
And they were just like, that is a personal decision. So
Woof.
yeah,
Yeah, you're like, would it be easier
like
or help my case?
actually,
And
I
they're
need to
like,
know. Like,
yeah, they'll be like, that's a personal decision. Be like, well, no. Would it help me legally
right.
if I did or did not change my name? And they'll be like, actually, now with the way gender roles are, we don't want to tell people what to do with their names, and
Right.
they want
They
to,
didn't want
yeah,
to, tell me that I'm still Derek's property. So
yeah, exactly. Be like, you're in a legally binding contract where he now owns you, and you have to take his last name because this is still a patriarchy.
yeah, he's like doubly owns me since he's my sponsor as well.
Oh snap! Blink like 6 times if you're in trouble.
Just like Britney Spears.
Yeah, yeah. I should have told you to wear a yellow shirt. Is there anything new with that Britney Spears thing? Because I keep hearing about it ever since that Netflix documentary, but I'm just like, I feel like I learned more about this than I initially ever wanted to anyway, so I haven't looked into it again.
Yeah, there was a huge thing where she finally had her day in court and spoke about how she wishes she could sue her family and she hasn't been able to have the life that she wants. Um, so I know there's a lot of stuff going into trying to remove her conservatorship.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't know what the latest is. It's like every other day there's like some other headline like Britney Spears' dad tried to block her from going to Hawaii, or
Hmm.
something like her sister was using her or her sister was in on it. And
Yeah, it was like, it's funny because you like, she wants to sue her family. It's like the only money your family has is yours, so you
yeah,
basically just be suing yourself with another step. But yeah, like I heard that her dad wasn't going to be her conservator, but now it's going to be her sister, and that her
right.
sister was like attacking the dad's like ineptitude or whatever, his ability to be her conservator, but it was just because she wanted to be the conservator. So it's like, I don't know what's going on
Yeah. And I
with
read
that.
like, yeah, there was like something that I didn't even know about where her sister like sung her songs at some concert.
Yeah, I heard about that. So yeah, what was happening was like something, and I don't know. The only thing I've
I don't
heard
know.
about this is other podcasts talking about it. So it's just like they're saying how she was complaining that her sister was singing her songs badly.
Yeah.
And I feel like she could just sue her sister for copyright. Be like, those, I own the copyright on those songs. Or is this like a sketchy like Taylor Swift thing where it's like some record label owns the songs and it doesn't matter who sings them because they get all the money anyway?
I don't know. Maybe.
Wouldn't this be a crazy conspiracy if it was like her dad didn't even want to do the conservatorship, but it was just like this record label, this whole like weird dark record label thing keeping her in a house so that they could sell the backlog of the albums without her like being crazy and ruining the Britney franchise?
I don't even know how far off that be because her dad's always like, oh, I haven't talked to Brittany in years.
Yeah, you have. I mean, I hope you have. He'd be like, he was like, "Oh shit, I put her in that house on the estate and locked the door, and I totally forgot. Whoops." It's just
Should
like
have should have changed her Instagram password.
He's like, "Did I leave the iron on? Did I leave my adult daughter in a home with the door locked for years? Oops." Yeah. I don't
Yeah,
know.
but that's kind of like being locked in her home is kind of like that meme you always see on Facebook. Like, would you have to live in this home for 1 year with your second at, but
yeah.
and you get $10 million.
Yeah, I will take all of her conservatorship and she could take all of my freedom and go to my super fun outdoor job all she wants. And it's heartbeat.
You'd
Like
be really good at welding, I bet.
yeah. I mean, she looks like she's got crazy. It's funny because it's like it'll be like you'll see a video of her and she'll be like, "Oh, she seems normal," and then like her like I will go crazy or something. I'll be like, "Oh yeah, that's why someone's in control of her finances." But I was gonna say, I feel like she might just be crazy enough that the welding, like the burning yourself, wouldn't bother her.
Yeah.
Although that just makes it sound like I'm crazy. But
No,
because
no, Dale.
the welding doesn't bother
No.
me, but that's
The burning.
just because I'm used to it. Self burn. So, uh, back to being sidetracked about something else we were sidetracked about
Always by
before
Britney
on the
Spears, but
podcast.
yeah.
Yeah. How was your whole immigration process? Because the States is getting pretty rocky in some points. So if people want to come join this country that on paper looks better, but actually isn't, how would they go about doing it?
My thing with that is that everyone always says like they're moving to Canada if someone wins the election. It's typically like if they would not be happy in Canada.
Oh no.
That person, those people.
Do you like having less freedoms and paying more taxes?
Right. Yeah. So my immigration process was pretty easy, actually, probably compared to others. But what we did was something called the Outland spousal sponsorship.
Mm-hmm.
Is a lot of paperwork. When you see like in the movies where it's like people get married just for immigration, like, and it's just like that's what happens. But
like the movie Green Card with Gerard Depardieu.
Yes, I didn't see that, but it's we had to send like pictures of our entire relationship from start to marriage, basically, emails to each other, text messages, proof that like we have acknowledged we were in a relationship on social media. What
So
else?
basically,
That
if
we
you're
have like
not,
sent money to each other and we have
oh
like
my
shared
God.
finances. Yeah. So it's so much. And it was like we had to have people write like verified letters that we were in a relationship and they had met us, that they were like at our wedding or saw our wedding.
Didn't I write one of those?
Yeah.
Nice. I'm on the
And
ball.
then every time it felt like we were done with it, it was like something needed to change, like something was incorrect. So we thought like we would get married in July. We got married July 5th, 2020. And we thought like that would be it. Like that was our last piece of paper that we needed was our marriage certificate. But we ended up not submitting my immigration until November of 2020. Didn't hear anything until like March. And then again, didn't hear anything after that for like 3 months. And then about a couple of weeks ago, it was just like, all right, you're approved.
Yeah, I remember because I was talking to Derek about it, and it was like he was always like, I was like, "So what's the process?" He's like, "Oh, I don't know. We're waiting to hear." And then it was all like, she's moving here. My wife's coming," and I was like, "Oh, that's cool." And it just kind of seemed like almost out of nowhere. Like, of course, it wasn't totally out of nowhere,
right.
But
Well, it was like I was planning on coming back anyways, August 1st. So it was just like my flight was already booked. So I crossed.
That's handy.
August 1st. And now I am a Canadian permanent resident.
Nice. So when does that turn into like a Canadian?
So that is at least 3 years.
3 years?
Yeah, and it's a certain number of days that I have to be in the country. And I
Yeah.
like have to be in the country a certain number of days to keep my permanent residency.
Oh, okay. Oh yeah. So how does that work? Like, I think Derek told me it's like you have to stay certain amount of chunks at a time before you can leave. Is that like a thing, or did I just make that up in my head?
I think you made that up, but no. So right now I can't really leave because I don't have my
Hmm.
permanent residency card, which
Okay.
is crazy because I have so many documents that say like I'm a permanent resident,
Yeah.
but I have nothing where like now that I am a permanent resident, like I need this actual physical card to if I wanted to go to the States or anywhere outside of Canada and come back. So
Hmm.
yeah, that might be a problem when we go for our honeymoon.
Oh, when's that? Next month?
Yeah. They said it would take 2 to 3 months for me to get my PR card. So
Yeah. So it's funny because like as we're talking about this, I'm like, oh yeah, so it takes all this time and then you don't know, and now you still don't have your permanent residency card, yet you have all this paperwork. And people are just like, how about we get vaccine passports? And I'm like, good luck. Like all these people who are arguing about it, I'm like, I don't even think you should bother arguing because by the time any of you gets like a vaccine passport, this would probably actually be over. Like not one of the like, oh, it's the 11th wave, we're coming back. It'll be like people will like forget what it was. It'll be like
yeah.
years.
Well, last time I traveled here, and this is only through like my airline. So American Airlines, they have an app called Verify, and you upload
Nice
like your
pun.
they upload your COVID test, your vaccination records, and then Canada has the ArriveCan app. So they like already have it in place pretty much, and you just upload it on there, and they verify everything on the ArriveCan app that you already need. So it'll be interesting because tomorrow, vaccinated travelers, are allowed back into Canada for discretionary reasons.
Yeah, and we're not allowed to go the other way, right? Did I hear that right?
You can fly, and like
Oh,
through
okay.
COVID, the whole time you've been able to fly. So
Yeah, I like to call that we've allowed gentrified traveling, but not ghetto traveling, like with the peasants who can't afford a plane ticket and have to drive across the border. Like, you can't do that. But people have just been fucking flying back and forth because they're like, well, if they could afford a plane ticket, they probably don't have COVID. So I'm sure it's fine.
yeah, and to me that whole thing was ridiculous just because obviously it's a lot safer to travel in your own vessel across the border,
Yeah,
but it's
exactly.
also harder, I think, for the border to
Hmm.
regulate that.
Yeah,
So
they can exactly like keep you like, well, they can like inspect your car or whatever, but to like, yeah, like it's way easier to control people in an airport and stuff and like kind of like
right,
look at them. When I haven't like traveled at all during the pandemic, do they like take your temperature and stuff as you go through the airport?
not anymore. No,
Oh, well, I meant like, did they when it was like at
yeah,
the
they did.
height? Okay. Yeah.
Only not like domestic flights, but when I came to Canada, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But not when I came to the States from Canada. So
Hmm. Well, yeah, I think a lot of the states are just like, which there's too many people here. We're not going to bother. Like, because the
yeah,
states has roughly, I think, 10 times as many people as Canada and half the land mass. So it's like Canada, we could kind of like corral the cats and kind of like keep track of everybody. But in the states, there's a lot of times where you're just like, we can't. It's too much people.
yeah, and like some
Too
of our
dense.
states are so small that, and like the interstate travel would be impossible.
Yeah, I can imagine. I was just going to ask you something, but I totally forgot what I was going to ask.
The answer is yes.
Hmm. Yeah, no, it was something. I'm sure it wasn't that important. So, do you want to talk about some stuff? Since we're
Sure,
on
let's
the
do it.
podcast where we talk about stuff, let's talk about some stuff.
So angry, yeah.
Yeah, wow. That's funny because it's like Derek said on the last one, it's like we're 100 now, we're 181 episodes in, and it was never intended to be about what we're angry about. It's
Mhm.
always been about like what people are angry about online. But it's
Now you
like
guys are
every
just
time,
fucking angry.
Yeah, now we're angry about that. Nothing else. Because it's fun. I can't even imagine like some of the stuff we talk about on here getting like actually emotionally invested. I would just be like, ugh. Like sometimes stuff will come up and I don't even want to talk about it because I have like absolutely no emotional like compass on it at all, where I just don't give a shit either way. But then we like
Right.
talk about it because so many people are upset. Like this baby Gonzo wearing a dress.
Baby
Like,
Gonzo, Gonzarella.
yeah, like everybody, like you brought it up because so this is what you brought to the table. So
Yeah.
basically,
This is what made me angry this week. And it didn't make me angry. But yeah, you go ahead and explain it.
well, I was going to get you to do the heavy lifting and explain it. I'll explain it. So,
I'm taking
Muppet,
Derek's spot, remember that.
yeah. So you better know some stuff and be able to say big words because I can't. So, Muppet Babies got rebooted like 2 years ago, which I didn't know. It's
Probably
on
no one did.
They will now, apparently. It was on Disney Plus Junior, and it's computer animated. And so what happened was I tried to look for it quickly before we did this, but I couldn't find it. So I don't know if this is like a Disney Plus international or if it's in the States only and it's not in Canada yet. But I couldn't find the actual episode because believe it was called like Gonzarella,
Yep.
but I couldn't find it on my Disney Plus. So I don't know if that's because the um the Muppet Babies episode that this is in is like in a season that's not uploaded to Canadian Disney Plus yet.
Right.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm not sure. I didn't know that Muppets was associated with Disney anyway, so
Yeah. Um I don't know. Oh, it's funny cuz I'm sure one of our giant fans who loves the Muppets would know this, but I feel like maybe it was the Fox merger, like or 21st Century Fox. I feel like that's who owned the Muppets, but I could be very wrong, but whatever. Um, so, anyways, to the actual point. So, in the show, they're like reading a fairy tale book, and Gonzo sees a princess, and he says something to the effect of, I wish I could dress up like a princess. And then Miss Piggy, being a fucking bitch, says, you can't dress like a woman because we're Republicans on this show. Actually, she just said,
just
you're not.
Miss Piggy probably is.
Yeah. So she says no, you're not allowed to because boys aren't allowed to wear dresses or whatever. And then Gonzo gets all sad, and then he something that nobody missed was the rat father, Rizzo, who's a rat father instead of a fairy. He's a fairy rat father instead of the fairy godmother, which everybody's just okay with that gender swap. Nobody caught that. So he grants little Gonzo's wish of dressing like a girl. So he wears a dress and then he wears a mask and he goes to like the masked ball or whatever and they have fun. And then later in the episode, it's revealed that he takes off his mask and they're like, why'd you wear a mask? Because we totally couldn't tell you were fucking Gonzo, this guy with this giant blue nose. And you're the only Muppet that looks like that until you took the mask off. And then he said something to the effect of like, I thought I had to hide who I was because I thought I wouldn't be accepted. So it was also a lot of this, a whole lot of it wasn't just the whole boy dresses like a girl thing. It was like hiding your true identity. And then they reassured him, like, oh, you don't have to hide your identity and stuff.
Like being stuck in very specific gender norms.
Mm-hmm. So I thought this is to me, this is totally fine because I feel like everybody's dressed up like a girl at one point in their life. I remember in grade 3, what I wanted to be for Halloween was a grandma because as far as I remember, there's always been like comedic actors and athletes dressing up like females and grandmas. Like Martin Short did it, Robin Williams did it. Eddie Murphy did it for like the Nutty Professor, where he was like a mom, and then Norbit, and then
Medea.
yeah, there was also was it Penny Hardaway, the basketball player who dressed up as a grandma for some Sprite commercials or something, and then he would like as a joke he would go to like some neighborhood basketball game, and then he would school them as dressed up as a grandma. So I feel like if this is like a brand new thing that we're going to talk about and it's going to be brought up, it's way too late because we've been dealing with this for like 40 years of guys dressing like girls.
Well, and the other thing is like, how old are these Muppets supposed to be?
Babies.
Like they're babies. So
I know.
I'm like more wondering like, wow, like Gonzo is like truly like amazingly introspective for a baby.
Yeah. Also, yeah, because it's like they are. I felt like,
And it's
but I
sad
haven't.
that he
Yeah.
knows like as a baby that it's not okay to be who you want to be.
Well, I think the whole point was Miss Piggy told him he wasn't allowed to because she's a bitch, and every iteration of Miss Piggy sucks. I've always hated Miss Piggy.
Yeah.
Hate her.
Well, yeah. And for that show, I think more of the issue would be like showing that, well, I guess it's good to show that like you could be judged for that, but it's okay to be who you truly want to be or what you're feeling.
God, I don't know why I hate Miss Piggy so much, but I think it was because
Really triggering for you.
she was always she was always super mean to like Kermit the Frog and like always punched him and stuff. Hey, remember like a couple years ago when we weren't allowed to call girls bossy because it was like mean or whatever? And I feel like Miss Piggy should have been the center of that because I was like her entire character persona was just being like aggressively bossy and angry.
Well, yeah, I mean, Miss Piggy's like basically abusive to Kermit.
Mm-hmm. Not basically, she is.
Yeah, she is.
Yeah. Derek's just giving me shit in the comments because he's saying I'm going a little too hard at Miss Piggy and I'll probably get us canceled, but we've already been canceled once off of YouTube and nothing happened. You couldn't watch episode 179 because I think we said something about masks that was counted as medical misinformation, and I don't want to bring it up because.
Or it could have been the birth control that you were talking about.
What birth control?
You were talking about birth control in that episode too.
Oh, and how if there was a pill, guys would totally take it. Yeah.
And your distaste for condoms.
YouTube doesn't care about condom use. They don't at all. It was definitely anything to do with COVID. So back to stuff that's not going to get us canceled and good old fashioned patriarchy. I also feel like
patriarchy is the one that's bringing Gonzo down.
Yeah. I feel like getting Gonzo as the character to wear a dress was also like only halfway progressive because he's like the weird, crazy character. So him wearing a dress is like, yeah, whatever. Gonzo would totally wear a dress. But if you got like Fonzie the bear to wear a dress, or is the dog's name Ralph?
I don't know. But does Fonzie the bear, is he like super masculine to you?
Mm-mm.
Traditionally?
He's the most boring, like, I guess what you would call a square character. Like he's the least like crazy and fun. Like Gonzo's like kind of a weird guy. So if Gonzo was at a party, he would come down dressed as a woman in full drag and be like, look what I do, guys. And everybody was like, oh, Gonzo.
At it again, Gonz.
Yeah, but if Fonzie the bear was like it, they'd be like, what's going on? Why is Fonzie dressed like this? And it would I feel like it would have more of an impact if it was a different character.
I don't know. It had a huge impact. It had a huge impact on Candace Owens.
Yeah, it did.
Who thought that it was sick and perverted that they would show this to children.
Yeah, she was the one who was super butthurt about Harry Styles wearing a dress too on the cover of, what was it, Elle magazine?
Vogue.
Yeah, so yeah, and she's like obviously never paid attention to music in the 80s whatsoever when everybody dressed like girls and wore lots of makeup.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's just like, I feel
she thinks that we are trying to feminize our men.
Well, there's some that should be feminized.
And that like civilization cannot survive with feminized men.
Yeah. I don't know if she's like, it's funny because it's like you see these, like you hear people like Candace Owens talk and you're like, are you not on the offensive part of the internet, like TikTok, where there's just like dudes being idiot dudes. Like, she probably sees like the videos of like guys just being total idiots, being like, hold my beer, and then going and like irreparably harming their body in some like supreme accident and being like, yeah, that's what men should do. They should
Oh,
be idiots.
like Jackass or like
Yeah.
all those Buffalo Bills trending videos.
Yeah, like Jackass is coming back. So Candace Owens is like, great, this is how men should be.
Yes.
Idiots. I mean, I would rather watch men hurt themselves doing dumb stunts than watch a child Muppet in a dress. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It's just men hurting themselves is a lot funnier.
Right. And I think the thing is that, Jackass and stupid viral videos of men hurting themselves
Mm-hmm.
is not like part of this woke culture that they're trying to fight. So,
Yeah, and you can't, and it's like, I feel like this might be something that she got mad at because it's just such an easy tee up for her to be mad at. Be like, well, this is just so bad because it's a guy wearing a dress and these little kids watching. I'm like, I don't think the kids care.
no,
Like,
especially, and so that's what half the problem is. Like, if you're an adult and you're making it a big deal to your child, like, what does that say about you? Because there's plenty of children, like, if they're old enough where they're watching the Muppet Baby show, they don't know what's going on. Like, there's plenty. I know I've heard of people like they don't let their boy children play with dolls. Like, they would never. They would like freak out if like their kid wore a dress. So it's just
yeah,
like furthering all of that.
yeah, like, and it's funny because these people are like, they're so scared that, like, if you let your child who's a boy play with dolls, that he'll turn out to have like feminine tendencies and stuff. But they've done so many studies with science to learn that that doesn't really have an effect. Like, it's like they look at all these kids, and then I think what happens is they'll start to like play with like cross gender toys, specifically like trucks and trucks versus dolls. Let's just go that. So it's like boys will pick dolls, girls will pick trucks at the beginning, but it's more like a novelty of something that they haven't played with or whatever. But
Yeah.
eventually they always kind of naturally, for their own will, like, or for their own choices, end up being gender specific. And it's not because they were told they have to or whatever. It's just because boys usually end up liking trucks more than dolls. And but I know there's like outliers and stuff. Like, there will be little boys who will rather play with dolls, but it's like, it doesn't matter.
All right. Well, what if it's like a boy and they have three sisters? Like,
Mm-hmm.
the way that kids operate is they want to what their like siblings have, or they want what other people have. So that's what they want to play with. And
Yeah.
that would be normal to a boy in that situation. And kids that are that age, they don't even know like what the difference is between a boy and a girl.
Yeah, that's true. Was it just Candace Owens who like was vocal about this, or was there anybody else? Well,
Um,
like, I know there's like basically the internet idiots who got all upset about it, but I don't know if like Candace Owens was the only famous person I heard speak out about this.
right.
But yeah.
Can you hear that?
Oh, I'm a little rusty at podcasting. It's been a couple weeks since I've done this. Do you have anything else to say about Gonzo wearing a dress, or are you willing to move on?
No, I'm proud of Gonzo.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there's probably more problematic Muppets.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
they've had one that's been living in a trash can for a very long time.
Yeah, that's true. And they haven't addressed like the homelessness, or like the Bert and Ernie whole thing where it was like, are they, aren't they? And they're just unwilling to talk about if they were potentially homosexuals or something. But I feel like they might have kind of been like pushed aside, been like, yeah, they are, whatever. And then just never, didn't like make mainstream.
Yeah, I don't know. That just feels like it's like a very very particular porn niche for an Ernie.
Yeah, I think it's funny. Like, what would they be if they were like the typical, like, because you know how, like, for homosexual males, they have the names like otter, wolf, bear. I wonder what Bert and Ernie would be. I feel like Ernie would be an otter, but it's hard to say because it's like, how hairy are they? Because part
Right,
of that
yeah,
whole
that's a
thing
big
is how
part of it.
hairy they are. Maybe
We got to
Ernie's.
rip them sweaters off, I guess.
Yeah, Bert's definitely the top. You tell that because he's more like authoritative. But then you know how sometimes they say relationships switch in the bedroom? Is
Hmm.
Bert actually the bottom and Ernie's the top in the bedroom?
I don't know,
Hmm.
but I'm gonna spend the rest of my night trying to find out.
Doing quick little research.
Yeah, I'll get back to
Oh,
you guys.
hey, you know what else the internet was very upset about with the gender switching that they weren't ready for?
Tell me, Dale.
He-Man and the Masters of the, or it was just called Masters of the Universe Revelation. Me and Derek talked about this last episode,
Okay.
and I was like, yeah, people hate it because they're idiots and they can't get over their nostalgia, because pretty much whenever anything's rebooted, people hate it because they're not little kids anymore and they've become dead inside because society has crushed them morally, and they aren't as innocent as they were when they watched He-Man as a little kid.
Right.
But it got so much deeper than that, because it turns out people didn't want a new story where He-Man and Skeletor disappear, and then the narrative follows Tila a couple years later, after basically the Eternia society has crumbled, and it's not, what's the word I'm looking for? Anyway, so in this cartoon, like, all the like social roles that everybody held in the old cartoon are gone. Like, you don't really see the king and queen, like Prince Adam's mom and dad, and Tila and Man of Arms are estranged, and she's like a mercenary, and she's not part of the royal guard or anything.
Hmm.
Because yeah, so everything switched on its head, but the narrative, like He-Man and Skeletor, like I said, they disappear. So the story follows Tila basically as she's trying to figure out what happened to He-Man slash Prince Adam and Skeletor, and basically get the band back together. And everybody flipped out because they're like, we don't want a show about Tila, we want a show about He-Man, which makes no sense because you can't really have the same narrative as you've always had. And
Right.
yeah.
What's the fun in that? And like that, I mean, that's too like so what so then they would just be comparing it to what was happening when they were children. And I feel like
Mm-hmm.
our nostalgia is just that. Like when we go back and like try to watch something that we enjoyed when we were children, we're just like sometimes it gets ruined for us as adults where it's like,
Mm-hmm.
I liked that. What was wrong with me?
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that doesn't hold up. Like, I went and watched both of the Ewoks movies that I loved when I was a kid, and they are fucking garbage. Not because I think it's more than they were bad for the time. It was like, I think what happened was they had all the costume and props for the Ewoks and stuff after The Empire Strikes Back, and they're like, why don't we just fucking crunch out two movies while we have all this shit here? And it's kind of funny because so the first there's two of the movies, and in the first one it's like this boy and this girl, like I think the girl's like 5 and the boy's like 9. So the story is their parents get taken away by the bad guys who look like, I can't remember what Star Wars race they are, so some Star Wars nerd's going to get all up in my grill about it. But their parents get taken, so the whole movie is the boy and the girl trying to get their parents back. And the boy's so fucking annoying. Like, I guess he was just like that typical 80s kid where he was like overconfident and like cared too much about being cool in his hair and stuff. And then at the very beginning of the second movie, they're like, okay, your parents are dead and your brother just died too. And you're like, wait, what?
My
then
goodness.
the only way the girl addresses it, she's like, my parents are dead now. And you're like, what is going on? So it's like both movies are crap, but for like 10 minutes at the beginning of the second movie, when all the annoying people from the first movie just get killed off screen, it feels kind of good. But oh yeah, I totally forgot why we were talking about this.
So how do you feel about Tila, Dale?
I like it because I don't know what the fuck everybody's talking about, because He-Man is the worst character in the He-Man cartoon. Like, he's just like the boringest guy. He's like, I'm the good guy. I do good stuff. I don't have moral quandaries and I don't have to weigh decisions. I just do what's right because that's what's right. And it's like, and then I turn into this wimp who can't do anything. And then I summon my inner courage. And you're like, this is so dumb and boring. And then Tila, she cuts her hair short. She's doing like the mercenary stuff with her friend who you don't know if they're just friends or if after they get their mercenary bounty, they're off scissoring behind the trees or something. You don't know what's happening. It's exciting. I liked it. Although I don't like, for me, some reason when I'm watching kids cartoons, which gender the characters are doesn't usually come up because there's no sex or anything in it, so it doesn't matter.
So is this for kids?
I think so. I think it's like it's one of those for kids, but it's for the
They have to have like the sexual tension on it for their parents.
yeah. Apparently people need strict gender roles so that they could follow along.
Apparently.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, I don't know. For some people, anything outside of their norm, it just like makes their head explode. And it has nothing to do with you. So like, what's the problem?
Yeah. Like, also, like, Kevin Smith handled this the worst possible way he could. He basically went on the internet crying, and it's like, all right, show's probably canceled now. You can't just like feed the internet trolls your tears because they just get so much stronger. So overall, like I said in the last episode, I really liked it because there's also the character Triclops who, like, because when He-Man and Skeletor disappear, all the magic in the land disappears too. And like apparently that's how all the characters use their powers and stuff. So Triclops, who's the guy with the spinning head, he starts this like techno cult where they're all like eating nanobots and getting like half robot powers and stuff from that. And that alone made the cartoon worth watching. So I think everybody should definitely go watch it. And I don't know, what other kids' cartoons are you watching right now that you don't have time for this?
Probably a good amount if they're watching one, I would think.
Yeah. So I guess it sounds like you haven't watched He-Man.
I have not.
Revelation, or
At all.
Knowing that the lead role for most of the show is Tila, and she got her hair cut and she's doing Hot Girl Summer. Does that make you want to watch the show anymore?
I'm going to go with no. I'm going to pass on that one. But go Tila.
So their whole pandering and trying to get girls to watch it by making a girl the lead character failed.
Yeah, for me. For sure.
Did you watch the rebooted She-Ra a while ago?
Never even heard of it.
Oh.
I'm out of touch. I'm out of touch with the cartoon feminism.
Did you watch He-Man or She-Ra when you were a child?
I don't think so.
All right, then this isn't for you, I guess.
I was just like strict, like Lion King, 101 Dalmatians, and that's about it.
Oh yeah, because you're younger than us. How old are you?
Yeah, 33.
Oh yeah, so you're a little bit younger. So He-Man would have been well off the air by the time you were watching cartoons, because I'm just trying to do math. You were born 86 or whatever ish.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so He-Man would have just been in reruns and syndication when you were watching. No, because Yeah, He-Man would have been long gone because it ran in syndication till like I think 91 or 92, and then it kind of went off the air. So you were probably like not even around for that. So you would have been like Tailspin DuckTales age?
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking.
Gargoyles?
Darkwing Duck.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
maybe
Those are
I need to make a reboot with Darkwing Duck as a female.
yeah. Oh, that would be cool. Like sexy Darkwing Duck or just like plain Jane Darkwing Duck?
I don't know. I mean, in like for me, to hold my entertainment, she would have to be sexy, but that probably would
I'm
get me
glad you
canceled.
said
So
it.
I'm just thinking of like Lola Bunny. It's like she's gonna have
Oh
to.
my god.
It would probably be like Daphne, or no, is Daphne? Which was the one in the dorky one on Scooby Doo?
Velma.
Velma. So yeah,
Mhm.
she'd probably be like Velma.
Yeah, it's funny because
But
as
Velma has her own fans, I'm
oh
sure.
yeah, I'm
So.
saying as plain Jane is what she was. Just because she was the nerd, she got sexualized and fetishized enough by the nerdy fans that be. I was just gonna. Oh yeah, the new Space Jam is very unsexy. Lola was not sexy at all.
Sorry.
Although Grandma had some moves, which I think was done more just for comedic effect than anything else. Like she slam dunks in one spot.
You're
Yeah.
really into grandmas today. Do you want to talk about that?
That's weird. I never put it together like the Penny Hardaway dressed as a grandma thing. Norbit, how I wanted to be dressed as a grandma.
This is Doubtfire.
I think a man dressing as a girl has just always been universally funny. Like there's a reason every comedic actor at one point, like Bosom Buddies with Tom Hanks. I forgot to bring that one up before. Like it's just funny that they're dressed up as a girl and like kind of doing the fish out of the water, like, oh, I'm a guy trying to act like a girl.
Or what was that other the Wayans Brothers movie?
White Chicks.
White Chicks, yeah.
Did you see that?
Yeah, I think I've seen that.
I don't think I saw that. I think I saw pieces of it, but I don't think I saw it. I should have watched that for homework for this show. But I guess if I had to watch all of the movies where somebody dressed up like a girl, that would have been like a lot of movies to watch.
Sounds like we have some homework.
Yeah, sorry. I'm trying to let you talk more because I think Tennille in the comments said I was talking too much and you weren't talking enough. And I'm
That's
trying.
good.
I'm
the
trying
guest
to
here,
be
Dale.
gender inclusive.
Well, then you shouldn't have picked talking about Masters of the Universe.
Yeah, I shouldn't have talked about a cartoon you've never heard of or seen. Well, you've heard of it, but you haven't seen. I take umbrage. Tennille just said SpongeBob SquarePants is the most annoying cartoon ever, and it is not. It is great.
I have not really watched SpongeBob, so
it's secretly been around on the air for like 18 years or something ridiculous.
I feel like longer than that. Yeah.
Yeah, like it's got like 3 movies. It's been around forever. Yeah.
Let's see, SpongeBob.
I remember I always try to get like my nieces and nephews to watch SpongeBob, but they never like it. I'm like, why don't you guys watch this? Quit watching Paw Patrol and watch SpongeBob SquarePants.
Derek makes fun of me because I'm like still obsessed with South Park. So,
well, I mean that is the most grown-up cartoon.
Have you seen Bad Mouth or Big Mouth?
Yeah, that's a pretty good cartoon.
Yeah.
I haven't watched South Park in a bunch of years. That's funny you brought it up because so I think I just saw like some news article about how Christian Shaw got fired from South Park after like an episode or something, and I was like, I haven't watched South Park in a long time. Maybe I should watch that. And Derek in the comments just brought up BoJack Horseman, which sucks. I hate BoJack Horseman.
Yeah, Derek tried to get me into that too, and I just was not that excited about it.
Hmm.
My
He
mind is
just,
very simple, especially when it comes to cartoons and TV. So I mean, like those
hey,
obvious jokes.
when they say this appeals to the lowest common denominator, I feel like too many people view that as a bad thing. Like I am always defending movies that everybody hates on this show. And it's like people fail to appreciate the simplicity of a lot of shows and movies.
Yeah.
Like Paul Blart Mall Cop.
Great movie.
Oh my god, it's so funny because it's like Kevin James is just one of those guys who ever I think it's maybe because we're the same body type, but it's like every time he does something, I just laugh and everybody's like cuz like he has this show or this like a bunch of short videos on YouTube and it's called The Sound Guy and he just edits himself into movies and it's so funny. It's just him like being the sound guy and being like awkward and like talking to the characters, but it's all like stuff clipped from the movies. And it's so funny. And then there's this other one, and he's like playing poker. And for whatever reason, he's like wearing this giant wig that's like down to here. And he just like moves his head and he's like, it's like 5 minutes and the whole time it's just him sweating because he's trying to figure out what poker to move to make and it's hilarious. Like it shows him moving his clips and there's like just water pouring down his fingers and then for whatever reason he drinks this glass of milk and it's like the wig's all sweaty and it's in his face and then the milk's on his face and I'm just fucking dying laughing. And Andrew's behind me and she's like, I don't really get this. Why is this so funny? And it's like, I'm dying. So don't watch He-Man or BoJack Horseman or all that other stuff. Just go watch Kevin James videos on YouTube.
That's all. That's all you really need. I looked it up and SpongeBob has been around since 1999.
Holy snap, 22 years.
Yeah. Thanks for doing the math on that for me.
Hey, no problem. If anything, I'll bring simple math to the equation. Do you think, is it still running?
Let's see. Yeah.
Like when you looked it up, did it have a closing date?
It says May 1st, 1999 to present.
Oh, there you go.
Although it says number of seasons, 13, number of episodes, 268.
Oh, yeah. It probably did the thing where it took more than a year to do some of the seasons. Well, obviously it did. Yeah. Wait, how many episodes? 208?
268.
Oh, so it was like basically 20 episode seasons. I'm just trying to do that simple math I was just bragging about.
Got him.
What about you? Do you like Kevin James movies?
I do.
Ah, there you go. Because Derek in the comments, he just said, I feel reassured that people who like Kevin James don't like BoJack Horseman. So if I had to pick which side of the fence I was on, it's the Kevin James side. And I feel like you're with me on that side. So
well, it's not surprising that me and you would pick the same thing.
Why? Because we're secretly the same person. We're just different. Yeah.
This is the first time people have seen us at the same time. They thought we were the same person.
Man, we totally ruined that whole Dennis Pokeroo thing we had going where they're like, I haven't seen them in the same room at the same time. It's like, make them both drink a glass of milk. I bet you they drink it the exact same way, which coincidentally is the same way Kevin James drinks milk.
Covered in sweat? Yeah.
Oh my God. Do you think Kevin James is the third for our triplets? I mean, he's not near the same age as us, but I feel like, wait, so you said
Maybe
you're 33.
Is
Kevin James older than 51? Is the gap between you and me the same as the gap between me and Kevin James? Oh my God. Could you imagine how awesome the sitcom would be if you and me were brother and sister? Okay, wait. So if he was like 14, he could have had me. But I look young. So I could just say that I'm the same age as you and we could be twins and we could be Kevin James's kids on a sitcom. Oh, we're like, okay, here's the sitcom. Kevin James is our dad. He's blue collar because that's just the funniest thing.
Did he ever have kids on King of Queens?
No. Oh. So Kevin James, he's a blue collar guy. He's nearing retirement. He's like got 10 years left. So he's like finagling his finances and he's going to go into early retirement because he saved his money. But then his adult screw up kids move home. So he has to keep working because
Adult
he
screw
can't
up kids
afford to
that are
quit.
twins.
Yes. Oh my God. Somebody get Kevin James's agent and Netflix. I'm sure he still owes them. Hey, it doesn't even have to be a series. It could be I'll do a one-off movie. Oh my God.
Grown Up 3.
It would be like, okay, clip 556 because Dale keeps laughing at Kevin James. Cut.
Dale's staring at Kevin James a little too hard.
Oh man, I wish Kevin James was my dad. Let's just keep talking about Kevin James forever and not talk about what we're going to talk about. Are we still talking about He-Man?
No, I don't know what we're talking about at this point, but maybe.
My God. I think we were. This has to be a record for.
Here's a good tie-in. How does Kevin James emasculate the modern man?
Well, obviously, if you've seen Paul Blart, Mall Cop, he has a wicked mustache, which screams super masculine. So I don't think he would. If anything, I think Kevin James could be accused of that whole classic trope of making men buffoons. So it delegitimizes their power or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, what does Candace Jones have
that's
to
like
say
the
about
whole.
that?
What?
I was like, what does Candace Jones have to say about that? The buffoonizing of the white male.
Yeah. Well, like the whole sitcom trope of super hot wife, idiot husband.
Yeah. I mean, Kevin James is still pretty hot, though, for a bigger dude. He's handsome.
I legitimately think my mom has a crush on him. So.
Really?
Yeah. So maybe he is my dad.
Maybe this is my real dad. Closer to reality. Oh my God. Could you imagine? Could you imagine having... Wait, do you have a stepdad right now?
No.
You could. You could have Kevin James, stepdad. Oh my God. Okay, so maybe it's not a movie. So we're going to parent trap Kevin James and your mom.
Okay. I don't know what my real dad is reality show. That,
Oh, are they still married? I thought they're split for some reason. How much do you like your real dad?
Love him.
Like enough to split up their marriage?
No, probably not.
All right, fine. We'll leave your parents married.
But maybe we can modernize it and
wait,
it can be like
single?
Polyamorous with Kevin James. I don't know.
My mom's a widow. Then Kevin James could be my dad. Oh my God. I got to text my mom. Although my mom's a little bit older than him. I don't know. Maybe he has a little May-December romance going on.
I mean, maybe.
I wonder if Kevin James likes
maybe that's where you get your love from grandmoms from.
From my real dad, Kevin James? This episode's a write-off now. I can't think of anything else besides hatching plots to make Kevin James my real dad. Do you think if we somehow made Kevin James my dad, would that make Vince Vaughn like my honorary uncle? Because they're like best buds?
He's like the uncle that it's like you, like where you're not like blood related, but you're still an uncle.
Sorry, I'm laughing. Derek in the comments was like, how are you still talking about this? Well, let me tell you, I might have to start a side podcast just called Dale Loves Kevin James. And I just talk about Kevin James for eternity. And it would probably be my most popular podcast. I feel like it would get the most listeners.
Yeah. I mean, you still have, how many episodes of your other podcast have you done? Like you could just switch it.
2. It's not going very fast because I have to research the stuff. Like the last episode I did was pyramids and I researched it for like a week And then I was still like, I haven't researched this nearly enough. So now the next episode I'm going to do is Sasquatches. And I'm like, it's almost like, feels like I painted myself into a corner because I was like, I like Sasquatches. I'll talk about Sasquatches. I was like, fuck, I got to learn so much about Sasquatches. Otherwise, people will just be pissed off at me and want to talk about Sasquatches to me. That's the other thing. It's like, have you talked to people who like Sasquatch besides me, who's completely normal and not obnoxious in any way?
Yes, I feel like I was watching something recently where the person was like obsessed with Sasquatch.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it was like some sort of dating show. Anyways, your episode after Sasquatches should be the next conspiracy theory should be that Kevin James is your father.
Yeah, it'll be like my tulpa. I will just use sigil magic and I will focus on it and I will like manifest it into being that it'll just like, I'll like skew the timeline and it'll just like, it'll jump and it'll just be like Kevin James was always my dad. And it'll be funny because the ages won't work out. And anytime someone brings up like, but Kevin James was 14 when you were born, that means he would have been 13 when he impregnated your mom. And people are like, yeah, I don't know. That's crazy. It'll be like, they'll use like a TV show MacGuffin where they'll be like, ha, crazy kids or something like that. Or, okay, here it is. This is what happened. So in the alternate timeline where Kevin James is my dad, but he impregnated my mom when he was 13. My mom was one of those like middle school teachers that seduces the student. So it'll be like my mom and Kevin James will have this super weird, like disconnected, like relationship where like she's not legally allowed to talk to him because even though it's been 42 years since she seduced a student, like the statute of limitations or whatever on them not being allowed to talk to each other hasn't worn out, so they like talk in secret. So like the whole comedic aspect of the show will be like me being the go-between between my mom and Kevin James. I mean, I don't
This
see
is
how
like
this isn't a TV show already.
I don't see how this is in reality. So
I mean, God, you know what I just realized is my dream job is if I just get to go into like a writer's room and spitball new sitcoms for Kevin James.
wow, that would be your dream job.
Could you imagine? And then it'll be
Like
like,
that is someone's job.
oh my God. Could you imagine a better job than that? Or like, even not Kevin James, like some other actress or actor you like. Oh, and then it would be like, they'll be like, oh, we're trying to get some heat on this actress. Can you figure out a way to work her into the Kevin James sitcom? And it'd be like, yeah, like Anna Faris, who just left the set of Mom because she didn't want to do that show anymore. And then I just come up with this like show about Kevin James and Anna Faris.
Is that your dream, Dale? You should
Okay,
pursue it.
I should. How does
Just
a
start
40
blowing up Kevin James's Instagram.
Oh my God.
Or like find like the least famous
across,
person he's friends with and then just like start DMing them.
the best would be if I start blowing up Kevin James on the internet and it just comes across that I'm sexually attracted to Kevin James, but I don't quite get it. And everybody else is like, what the fuck? Dale wants to have sex with Kevin James. And
I don't know, the way you're carrying on about this and the way that you're blushing now
oh yeah, I'll be like,
and the little giggles, I don't think that's too far off. So
like, remember that scene from Grown Ups when you're on the rope swing? Yeah, I kind of wish I was the rope. And people would be like, what?
honestly, like you're just obviously gonna have to tag Kevin James in this episode. So
What do I have to do with my life to get Kevin James to watch this episode of this podcast?
I'll help you.
Oh my God. Okay, new sitcom. Me and Kevin James have a podcast.
Kevin James, if you're out there and you're watching this spot that I'm in is open.
Wait, you don't. You got to come too, because you're going to be my sister in the show. That's one of the other points.
I just went for your podcast.
Well,
Kevin James, we're here to announce today that Kevin James is going to be the new co-host of Outrage Factory.
Okay, how do you feel about Anna Faris acting as you in this new pod or sitcom? Derek just said Kevin James can't have his spot on this podcast, so sorry, Kevin James.
Derek also said that me liking Kevin James is grounds for divorce. So.
Really? Oh my God. I was watching this. I can't just make a joke. I was going to be like, you should just like ride him and convince him until he dresses up as Kevin James for sexual role play. How much convincing would you have to do to get Derek to dress up as Kevin James?
Well, I mean, he'd have to also gain a lot of weight.
He can wear a fat suit. Okay. My next question is, so you actually somehow convinced Derek to sexually role play Kevin James.
Uh-huh.
Which movie? Ouch, Derek said he could just borrow some of my clothes, and as much as it hurts, it's probably true.
I don't know. Actually, I honestly don't even know how many Kevin James movies I've seen. Mm-hmm. So I'm just going to have to go with Hitch.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah. Because he's all sweet and nice. Yeah, but he's just like, he's just kind of like boring, like semi-casual.
That's my type. Just kidding.
Okay, here. Have you seen Here Comes the Boom?
No.
Where I think he's a school teacher and he becomes an MMA fighter to like make money for something or other. There's The Dilemma where he's a car designer guy. I feel like we just went through. I feel like I just went through all of Kevin James' movies like 2 episodes ago, but you might not have heard that episode, so I'm going to do it again.
This is like not even special to just our episode together.
Yeah. No, I talk about Kevin James all the time. I haven't talked about Kevin James this much or had this many good Kevin James sitcom ideas.
Because Derek doesn't like Kevin James, so.
How do people not like? I get not finding Kevin James as funny as I find him. Or
he's like a less offensive Adam Sandler.
Yeah, he's like. It's like. It's like if Adam Sandler and Kevin James, if you knew them in real life, Adam Sandler's the one that gets way too drunk and embarrasses you, whereas Kevin James gets drunk and makes good jokes.
Kevin James is like the love child of Adam Sandler and Jon Favreau.
That is such a good way to put it, because he's directly in the middle. Because Jon Favreau seems like he's kind of a boring guy, whereas Adam Sandler, like maybe not now that he's an old man, but in his youth, I bet he could get kind of exhausting. Whereas Kevin James is that like perfect melding of exhausting and boring. Maybe that's why I like him, because that's how I feel I am.
But he also has like, doesn't Jon Favreau have like the New York thing going on too?
I guess.
Or Boston, I don't know.
Yeah.
Something in the Northeast.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. It's funny because Jon Favreau's from there, or Chicago. That's where, right? Aren't they all from Chicago? Like Favreau, Vince Vaughn, Kevin James. No, I think Kevin James is from Boston.
No, New York.
Oh. It's funny because it's like, at least. You think of like Boston and New York as worlds apart, but it's like if you come to Canada, they're way closer than any of the other 2 cities.
Oh, yeah. Well, we've talked about this before, like being from Philly, and like all those cities are like so close to me.
Mm-hmm. Like to get to Calgary from here, where I just was this weekend, it's like 10-hour drive or so, like 8 to 10-hour drive. And to get to Victoria, the other biggest city in BC, is like a 2.5-hour ferry ride and then a half-hour drive. So like 3 hours. And then Kelowna is like 4 hours, which is not even that big of a city.
Yeah, Boston is like 5 hours from me, and I could probably get to New York City in under 2 hours.
Really? Did you go to New York all the time? Were you guys ever
No.
like, fuck, let's go to New York?
Nope, never.
Mm, yeah. That's weird because it's like one thing about BC is like since all the cities are so far apart, you just travel from one to the other so much. You're like, fuck, we'll just like you're like, we're going on vacation. We'll go like 3 hours for 2 days. Whereas like you probably would have never done that. You wouldn't have been like, let's go to Boston overnight or New York overnight.
New York, yeah. Well, yeah,
In
I
your
mean, it's just like
20s.
they're so close, you could go whenever you want, but then you never
Yeah,
go.
that's true.
And Boston is like 5 hours, but I had only like visited it for the first time a couple of years ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's crazy. You figure like of all those cities, I think I'd want to go to Boston the most just because of their accents. It would just be so funny to listen to them talk about it.
Derek just said I'm nowhere near Boston, but yeah, it's 5 hours
Because you're in
away.
Vancouver now.
Oh,
So
well, yeah.
you're more than a 5 hour flight from Boston now.
Yeah. I honestly did not like Boston, so
Yeah, no, it sounds like it's full of animals who get drunk and beat each other up, but they do have funny accents.
they do.
Mhm.
Sometimes, like, I've had coworkers from Boston and I can't even understand them.
Yeah, that's like Canada's equivalent, I guess, would be a Newfie. I'm trying to think of is Boston America's hardest accent? Like, do they have like the most hard to understand accent of all the people in the states? Because South has pretty strong accents, but none of them are really hard to talk understand. They just have like a long, drawn out drawl.
mm,
Maybe like swamp people. Those would be like Newfies.
or some people from like New Orleans that speak
New Orleans.
what are they? What is that language that they speak?
New Orleans. New Orleanese?
No, it's Cajun.
Creole?
Creole.
Yeah. What's the difference between Creole and Cajun? Is Cajun the food and Creole the language? Or is because Cajun's a food too? No, wait, I just said that. I just said Creole was All
I don't
right.
know.
All
I don't know.
right.
Boston. I've never met someone from Boston that I like. So.
Oh snap! You're gonna get us kicked off the internet for hate speech against Bostonians, but nobody actually cares.
Someone's probably like, "What about me?" in my messages, and I'm like, "I'm sorry."
I fucking hate you, and you shouldn't have brought it up because now it's awkward. Oh man. Yeah, I love that. Like when you say, "Oh, I hate all of this person," and you're like, and people are like, "You don't mean that. You're just generalizing," and you're like, "Yeah, I guess I am."
Hey, I get it all the time being from
Sideways,
Philly.
sideways.
So.
Yeah. Well, the only thing I know about Philly is that comedian who got shit canned off SNL because he's racist against Chinese people, and It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Those
Yeah.
are my and I guess Will Smith. Those are my only Philly references. I hear isn't it just like all of the West Coast is just like meathead dudes who just beat each other up?
The East Coast?
Yeah. Like Boston, New York, Long Island, Philly,
Long Island.
New Jersey.
No, I mean, in Philly, like we're the city of brotherly love, so I think we got a bad rap.
Like that's pretty progressive from what I've heard about Philly. Like
What?
brotherly love?
Not
Or like
brotherly love,
brotherly love.
but
Oh.
brotherly love and sisterly affection.
I mean, both of those sound very erotic. It's funny because sisterly affection is in my porn searches a lot. Just kidding.
Oh my.
You could just call it like scissorly affection instead of sisterly. Get it?
Derek's popping off about Philly people.
Yeah. Oh, M.
And
Night Shyamalan, is he from Philly? I love M. Night Shyamalan.
yeah, I think he is. He films a lot of stuff there.
Oh, that's probably why he likes Mark Wahlberg so much.
Well, he's from
Which
Boston.
there's nothing wrong with Mark Wahlberg. Yeah, but you just said Boston and Philly are like 5 hours apart. In
Like, no,
Canada, that'd be
well,
like from the same province.
is Bruce Willis from Philly? I don't know.
Massachusetts? Boston's in Massachusetts, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry. I don't know why. Like, I'm
Um,
laughing at you. I'm sorry.
that's fine.
Because, like, to me, it's like common knowledge, but like, I know, like, Americans don't know anything about Canada at all.
That's because there's nothing interesting to know. You know what? You know what the biggest thing we learn about in social studies about our own country is when it's like the industrialization, when people left farms and moved to cities. That's the most important thing we learn about in our history. That's how boring this country is.
So you've learned
And
mostly like American history, and I don't think we've
yeah,
learned any Canadian history, to be
mm,
honest.
there's nothing to learn because anything that is like um kind of like affected the development of this country a lot is all the shit we want to keep secret that we did to like the First Nations people when we were horrible bastards when we were making the country.
Right.
Like we don't have like a cool story like the Boston Tea Party or that Paul Revere guy who ran around on a horse or the Alamo or Derek's like talking in the comments. He's talking about stuff that Canada's done, and that's like
Zippers.
pasteurization, the fur trade, maple syrup. Oh, and the War of 1812, which everybody likes to from Canada likes to bring it up because we burned down the White House, which is pretty impressive, I guess, but there's no way we could do it again. And I think the only way we burned down the White
I would
House
hope that
was,
no one could do that again. So,
yeah, I think it wasn't like we overwhelmed your forces and then burned it down. I think like secret guys ran in, burned it, and left. And since it was 1812 and people didn't know what like fire prevention was, it probably just went up in like an hour.
right.
Yeah, so
I've taken Derek to see the White House before.
mm, nice.
That
You
is the
try,
nice thing about the East Coast, though, is like Boston, Philly, DC. We have like all that history and like,
dude, you have so much cool like weird cult shit you could go to, like in New England.
oh yeah,
Like
I
you could
forgot you're
go
obsessed with Ohio, which is like the most boring state that
Ohio.
exists.
Wow, that's just like the Serpent Mound, and there's like Ohio only has all these serpent mounds and stuff because everybody everywhere
What's a
else like
serpent mound?
serpent. It's like this mound, the shaped like a serpent. Anyways, no, it's like this it's this thing like the mound builders. The mound builders were a group of First Nations. I can't remember if it was different groups and they all kind of did it, but they would build mounds and some of them line up with like the stars. There's a word for it that starts with an A that I can't think of right now.
Astrology?
Yeah. There's
Really?
like some of these mounds line up astrologically with the sky, and the serpent mound, the way it's like, because it's like what it is it's like a snake and then there's a egg in its mouth or something and then it has a tail that comes down and it points directly at the summer solstice, and that's
Oh,
in Ohio. But my point was that the only reason I think all this shit is in Ohio was I think there was just as much in like Pennsylvania and Massachusetts and shit, but that was so populated back whenever that they like raided all these mounds. Because what they would, a thing that would happen was the guy who started Mormonism, John Smith, he would go and he would raid these mounds for like it was like a very popular thing where people would go and they would dig up the First Nation mounds and they would take like trinkets and stuff and resell them, and that was like their whole sort of like secondary business. But a lot of people were too like scared of curses and stuff to actually do it, which they should have probably listened to because there's no good of disturbing the dead that can come. So yeah, But yeah, you have like, oh no, wait, does Georgia count as the East Coast or is that like Southeast Coast?
It's Southeast Coast.
Because it's all these places are still within the confines of like British Columbia and how far apart they are. Like, I'm
Oh,
pretty sure if you put British Columbia over the East Coast, well, obviously, because it goes down, it would go from like the tippy top of New York all the way down to Florida. Oh, yeah. Sleepy Hollow. Where's that? That's in New
I don't
England,
know.
right? Oh, yeah.
I
So,
don't know.
like, apparently there's like a bunch of cult shit there too. Like, there's a New England Stonehenge. I don't remember where it is. And then you have all like the Salem witch trials and shit and the Puritans. And it's like,
It's actually only looks like it's North Carolina to the bottom of Florida.
oh, that's how big BC would be?
Yeah.
Oh, that's way smaller than I thought it would be.
And then like Georgia and so Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Alabama, and like Tennessee.
Oh, yeah. Because the reason I brought up Georgia was the Georgia Guidestones, which doesn't really count as old school because those were put up in like the 50s or something. So I don't think they count. But yeah, the Blair Witch, that was like,
Isn't that New Jersey?
oh, yeah. Well, New Jersey's like right next door, isn't it? It's like right
So,
next to New York.
oh yeah.
Yeah, so that all counts as the same area to me. So yeah, that would be sweet to go like
Don't
go
ever
to
say
that
that to
area.
someone from New Jersey.
What are they gonna do? Drive to BC and beat me up? Yeah. No, it'd be sweet to go through that whole area and go look at all like the ancient shit because because the Puritans and shit came over and just started building shit there like forever ago. And it also like the First
Delaware, the
Nations.
first state.
Yeah. And it's like there used to be like an ice sheet that covered half of North America, but that didn't go down to like where we're talking about. Like it didn't go as far south as New England and shit. So supposedly there's this like ancient civilization that lived pre 13,000 years ago. So they would have moved around in there. And those are the ones who built like the mounds and stuff. And
Mm.
that's why you don't get anything like that up in Canada because we're all covered in bullshit ice. So like that pre modern civilization that's not supposed to exist, that it wasn't up here.
Gotcha. But you still have like what I like about BC is like you still have like the ancient like trees and so
yeah, that's one thing because that ice sheet didn't go down, like it didn't reach all the way to the coast of BC. So that's why we have trees that are thousands or hundreds of years old and stuff, as opposed to maybe Ontario and stuff where they don't. But yeah, it is that we do have a lot of old growth, which is nice.
yeah.
But they have that in Washington too, don't they?
No.
You realize I could read the comments too, right? If you're not watching this on Facebook, Derek just said, "This is interesting. I'm going to sleep." And then Kate said, "Same." And I read it. And now my feelings are hurt. Is this what it feels like to be a person from Boston who's met you?
I don't know. Maybe we should interview them on the next episode.
The people in Boston will start an anti-Kate fan club.
I mean, I'm sure it probably already exists.
We'll be like, "We hate her because she hates all of us." And then I'd be like, "From what I've heard about Boston,
All
you
the
deserve
actually,
it."
I don't know anything about Boston. I was about to say like the Southeast, but I don't even know if that's a thing.
Yeah.
A group of people.
Well, I think we're at like an hour and 25 minutes. So we still had stuff to talk about, but it's not as interesting as Kevin James. So
Yeah, nothing is.
No, nothing really. And my dreams of becoming his on-screen child. I
Thanks
really
for.
think that first sitcom I pitched with you and me as brother and sister, and we have to move back in with our dad, Kevin James. Oh, that'd be good. Oh, and then the subplot is our mom's dead, but he's not willing to move on. And then there's like this smoking hot chick who loves him because he's such a nice guy. And
She
she's
like
like,
one of my friends, or is she
oh
like
no, she's
a
like,
coworker?
because we
His
in the show,
caretaker?
no, in the show, we'd be like 33. Kevin would be 56, like his real age. She could be like 45. Like she could be still young enough to be hot, but like not, but like, and she could be like maybe like a recovered girl with loose morals. So she could be like the whole Blanche Devereaux character from Golden Girls, where she's just
Mhm.
like comes on so strong and he doesn't get it. And she could just be like basically throwing herself at Kevin James and him not picking it up. That'd be pretty funny.
Yeah.
And then she could make sexual innuendos about stuff being
Let's start
temperature
writing
hot.
it.
I'm gonna write. I'm not gonna write this script. This is the exact same thing that's gonna happen as my werewolf novel, where I'll start writing it and I'll be like, I have a million good ideas, but every time I sit down to write this book, it just gets bigger.
It'll just be like one sentence. Kevin James is my dad. The end.
That's my pitch to Netflix. Kevin James is my dad, and they'll be like, well, he is under
Yeah.
contract. Yeah. Or I wonder how many movies Adam Sandler's still contracted
Oh, with
for with
Netflix?
Netflix. Yeah, because he had a contract for 8. Maybe we just get an Adam Sandler's ear.
They're
All right,
friends,
that'll be our
right?
homework. Yeah, yeah. Maybe Grown Ups 3.
I think we started at the bottom though. I'm gonna start
Who would
sending some DMs.
to Rob Schneider? He'd be at the bottom. Just fucking throw Rob Schneider right under the bus.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
David
because
Spade.
Kevin
Things
James
I've
is obviously at the top.
right. The things I've seen David Spade in lately, so
Yeah, that's true. Oh, and then if we convince David Spade, we could get Whitney Cummings, and she's hilarious.
she could be the woman with loose morals that's in love with her
Mm,
dad.
I love it. That is such a good idea. Oh, Whitney Cummings hitting on Kevin James would be so funny. Although I think she's younger than us, younger than me at least.
It's okay. It doesn't matter on TV.
That's true. Yeah. Well, I think we've talked about this episode enough. Or talked on this episode enough.
Yeah. Till next time.
Whatever else we're going to talk about, we'll save it for the next episode. So you have a podcast?
I do. It is called The After Party
Mm-hmm.
with the Sober Kates, where
Yeah.
we talk about Kevin James, only slightly less.
Does your podcast co-host get as mad about how much you talk about Kevin James as mine does?
No, not at all.
Okay.
She supports me in everything I do.
Nice. Must be nice. Oh, Derek already left. Never mind.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you've got that going, and people can find that on what, Anchor?
More Future Podcast. It's on. It's just hosted on Anchor. So,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, it's on Apple. It's on Spotify.
Nice. You also have Instagram.
Instagram. You can find me at Crandallka, which is part of my old last name, or at the Sober Kates.
Okay. I'll put a link to this in the show notes. If you want to find our podcast Twitter, Kate doesn't have Twitter, so I'm not steamrolling over her before she gets a chance to talk about it. But if you want to find our podcast Twitter, it's at outragefactpod. My personal Twitter is at superdalebot. Derek's personal Twitter is at herder with 3 R's on her and her.
Herder.
Facebook is facebook.com outragefactpod. Do you guys have a Sober Kate's Facebook page?
No.
Hmm.
Little Kate's not on Facebook
Oh, really?
or Twitter and barely Instagram. So
Yeah. How do you guys message each other? Just like texts or WhatsApp?
text, yeah.
I feel the only thing I use Facebook anymore is to message people and to upload all the pictures I take. That's basically all I do on Facebook. Oh, add this podcast, of course. We stream live on Facebook.
As we are streaming live on Facebook.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. It was
Been a pleasure.
treat. I didn't want to stroke your ego before you got here, but every time you come on, our views go way up. I think that's because people, unlike the He-Man cartoon podcasts, people love when women are on because we get more views when you're here. I would say
anytime you need to use me for ratings.
Careful, I'll take you up on that. Until next time. Oh, you don't know the thing?
No.
You don't know the thing we do? I thought you watched all 181 episodes. Well, anyways, you just say, until next time, stay angry. So until next time,
stay angry.
There you go.